All right, welcome to our third podcast. We're starting to get our legs under us for this kind of stuff. We got some new recording gear to make things a little clearer. I think we've just, by consensus, decided that this podcast is going to be called the Hoosier Surveyor podcast, essentially a continuation of our quarterly, is it a quarterly?
Quarterly publication.
Quarterly publication. Speaking of the Hoosier Surveyor, the latest one just came out, and we had a great president's message by Mr. Meeks.
Thank you.
Talking a little bit about the Vincennes University Surveying Camp. Do you want to give us a little synopsis of what your president's message was? And I know it's probably been a while since you wrote it, but
Basically focusing outside, or one with workforce development. Obviously, that's ongoing and will be for a while. It was more about the extracurricular things that go along with surveying. I think that's something we've been missing over the last few years is doing stuff with other surveyors outside of the boardrooms and executive decisions and work-related things, and just having some fun.
yeah, how many do you know much? I mean, I was at the VU surveying camp. For those that don't know, this summer, Jessica Hess put together a surveying camp that was opened up for freshman to senior high school students.
Yes.
They could come onto campus for, I believe, 3 days. They spent 2 nights in the dormitory, ate lunch in the dining hall. It was basically come live the life of a VU land surveying student for a couple days. I thought it was an awesome experience. I think we had, what?
19.
Was it
19.
19?
19.
19 students show up. I know that a kid that we know in our community in Fishers was going there, and he has expressed a real interest in going, to the point his mom's asking me, what degree should he go for down at VU. So I think it's an extremely positive thing. I hope it continues. We just got to find a way to maybe expand it. I know we had a waiting list, and people were mad they couldn't get in. So it was very well received.
Yeah, there was. I know Jessica relayed that right at the very right before the camp began, there was an influx of procrastinators, if you will, that were 5 or 6 that we just weren't able to get in this time, and we'll pick up next time if they're still interested. And that'll kind of segue into we did. At the last board meeting, the first thing we tackled was the VU annual review. For those of you listening that don't know, the ISPLS Board of Directors is the advisory committee to the Vincennes University Surveying Program. So we kind of went down through some of the program curriculum that's down there at VU. And then we also did kind of an after actions with the surveying camp, and kind of looking for next year. I think there's going to be an announcement in December about next year's coming camp. So there's been some decisions made as far as what they're going to leave in, what they're going to leave out for next time. What worked, what didn't work, what we can improve and do better. And I think they're going to open it up to 30 campers in the upcoming. They thought that was a good number, not to go too big, just because of the way that it's staffed by volunteers for the most part. So that's a big issue right now with putting it on. But it was an overall success, I think, for every camper that was there. Like I think I mentioned in the president's message, we lost some, we gained some. There was kids that went down there and they decided they definitely weren't going to go into surveying. And I think that's just as beneficial as the ones who did spark an interest and did see that they wanted to go into surveying.
Right. Okay, before we kind of dove right into business right away. So again, like I said, we're new to this. So let's go around and do little introductions. I am your host, Ryan Swingley. We're joined here by Ryan Selby. Say hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Obviously, your president, Mr.
Meeks.
Eric
Yep.
Meeks, and our workforce development leader,
Chairman.
Chairman.
Committee chairman.
Committee Chairman Rodney Kelly.
Good morning.
So I just want to point out, I don't know if this is public knowledge or not, but we're sitting here with the current president and the new president-elect, Brian
The new
Selby.
president-elect, not to leave out Vince Barr.
Right,
who
I
is
was
the
gonna-
actual
The
president-elect.
I guess it'd be the 2023 president-elect.
Yes.
2024
Well, so
president.
right now it's,
so
it's Eric Meek. So next year, you will be past president.
Correct.
Vince Barr will be president, and Ryan Selby will be president-elect. Now, one of the things we get a lot of guff for is we're old. The board of directors is old. And I think about that. I can't think of a better cross-section of our profession than you're how old?
I'm not even middle-aged.
How old are you, Eric?
46.
46. So you're like what I consider like the sweet spot. You're in the prime of your life. Well, with me, you know, we're in the prime of our life. We're old enough to know better, but still young and dumb enough to go do crazy things, right? You know, I mean, that's kind of where we're, you know, Selby over here.
Controlled crazy things.
Selby over here, he's still in that, you know, that crazy young phase, and
How are
Vince
you?
is
I'm 39, so yeah.
and Vince
Hammered
is-
down.
How old do we figure Vince is?
I'm not even going to guess.
You said cross section.
I'm not even going to guess.
Older than 40s.
Yeah, he's older than 46.
He's young at heart, though. We know
Yes,
that
he is.
for sure. So I think it's a good cross section of our membership. I'm excited about what our executive committee is going to do for the next year. Eric is basically, I mean, he's still got 2 months left, and then slightly into January. For those that don't know, the gavel gets handed at the end of the convention, and that's when the term of the president starts. Give us you're hitting some 2 pivotal months here, but give us an idea of like what you've thought of your presidency. What are some of the pain points and some of the successes, and give some advice to this young president coming in.
I think one of the things, the way ISPLS and the bylaw structure the presidency or having it where you have a past president, and president-elect, I think really leads to the continuity in keeping the mission going forward, you know, other than just having, you know, one individual have a 3-year term. So it's good to have the fresh faces, the fresh voice, the new energy, because, you know, you don't think it's something that is overly cumbersome on your time, but you do spend a lot of time on it, more so than you think. But keeping the mission going is something that is really built in. I want to say it's just a matter of keeping that focus from one to the next. You know, the big things, you got certain things that you tackle in certain seasons of the year as far as, you know, fiscally. Obviously, around July time, you're advancing toward looking at the ISPLS budget. That's something that's going to be, it's always looked at. Even if there's nothing going on, you're still going to have to critique that budget and keep things in line and deal with challenges as far as funding things. Workforce development, something that we've really talked about. And that's one of the things in the last couple months we really want to look at is the way our firm membership is structured and whether we have room to add maybe kind of a partnering level with some of the industry leaders to, you know, align their mission and our mission, which are one and the same, and that's get more people into this industry and in the workforce. As far as, you know, sage advice, you know, obviously knowing Ryan, I know he's got a good head on his shoulders, and he's going to fill right in and go along. I think I haven't seen anything overly crazy out of him, more so than anyone else, so I wouldn't expect anything but solid leadership out of him. So,
Well, thank you. Yeah, but I think I agree with that, with the fact that we have the president-elect, president, past president. It allows you to start, like for me, it's going to allow me to start, you know, as of now or in January to really start watching and start talking, having conversations with Vince and with Eric to kind of, as I'm starting to prepare for 24, what I need to be thinking about and working towards and stuff like that. So it does make it nice to have them around, and it's not just like, oh, come January, you're in charge, and okay, what do I do now? So it gives you time to kind of just learn what you need to be doing as a president and start kind of creating my vision for what my year is going to look like.
Right. Well, one of our main goals of these meetings is to kind of go over, what happens at our board meetings. Our very first podcast was literally minutes after our meeting. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend this meeting. We had a pre-scheduled campus visit for my daughter. She's a senior, and we're trying to decide what her future is. So that comes with its own challenges and fun for me. So just looking at the agenda, and Eric had touched on this briefly, but the Vincennes University Annual Review was the very first topic of discussion. And like you said, I don't know if many people know, but our board of directors acts as the advisory committee for Vincennes University. Eric and Ryan, you were in
There was
Yep.
what was the bulk of what was discussed, or what really happens at these reviews is kind of a after action of the previous year, things that were in the curriculum that are changing, or something that needs to be changed, or additions to be made, and a lot of that really relies on the experience that Jessica has had with the classes there. I think one of the things was the elective programs. They were switching those up.
Yeah, they're going to look at some of those, and
what some of them weren't applicable, or maybe one or two might have been moved into a role where they were added into the degree program.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the
Do you
bulk.
have examples of those coursework?
I do. I've got my notes. The elective,
I think
that's on the back.
Your class, Ryan's one of the electives, I think, in there
Yep.
right now, and so
Yeah, so
It's funny you should ask.
yeah.
so just,
It was, and I don't have the names written down, but they were talking about taking one of the electives out, which was the Serve 435. Which Ryan, do you remember what that was?
I don't remember off the top of my head.
But it wasn't. It was something that they felt like having it available wasn't. They kept choosing that, but it wasn't as applicable as some of the other
Some of the
electives. So
others.
it was one of those that was really popular, but it wasn't really applicable.
I think there in the middle might be the list of the electives that the four. I think there's four of them there that
Yep.
were the ones to choose from. But
Yeah.
The directed electives.
Yeah.
And as obviously these were something that the student got to choose. They're directed electives, so they would meet with Jessica in regards to their program track, and she was directing them to take these other electives because it was more applicable, but they would always go back to choose this other one.
yeah,
was that the remote sensing class? Do you know if that was in the mix? Am I getting we getting a pink? So just
It was not the eraser
I'm
committee.
not
Yeah.
getting the pink
Nothing-
slip. Well,
no.
just for
Nothing-
full disclosure,
Nothing got taken out.
one of my employees, Randy Allen, has since moved home, and so just backtrack a little bit about the remote sensing class. I think we're in the 4th year of teaching that class. The first year I taught it completely on my own. The focus was a good bit of field acquisition of scanning equipment, static scanning. We brought our mobile system down there. And then the second half of the class was feature extraction using TopoDot. And we are the first university, I believe, in the world that has implemented TopoDot at the classroom level. I mean, several universities have put in the research portion, but no one's done it at the classroom level. So the second year, It was co-taught by myself and Randy, the third year co-taught, and then Randy has since moved to Washington. I thought it was easiest to let him take the class over completely. I came down as a guest lecturer for the first couple weeks while we did acquisition stuff, and then he took it the rest of the way because we decided, I don't want to say that laser scanning acquisition is easy, but there's so many different platforms, so many different things. So we decided not to focus as much on it and focus a little more on the feature extraction itself. I've started teaching a computations and adjustment class at VU Indianapolis, mainly doing the lab portion. A good bit of the lectures already taken care of, but so just an update. We've got the I'm kind of spun off here of our main discussion, but the VU program in Indianapolis is, I would think, thriving. So I'm there.
It is, and that was one of the reports she made. I think she's got 22 on-campus students, kind of those traditional students coming right out of high school. And then, did she say 71, I believe it was, total in the program?
In some form or fashion.
It might just be a one-off, two-off class just to kind of finish stuff up, or it would be in the hybrid program or whatever. But that's great numbers. 71 people total in the whole program,
and even 22, on campus traditional students.
Mm-hmm.
That's phenomenal. 5 years ago we sat in there, and we had 6 students total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're definitely trending.
Wasn't the number that she spoke of when she took over, less than 20?
Yeah, I think so.
Like 14 or 16 or something?
In the whole program.
In the whole program.
Yeah.
6 years.
Tripled it, at least,
Yeah.
Yeah, just from my perspective on teaching this class, I show up on we have live class 3 Fridays during the semester, and both classrooms are packed. She's teaching one class, I'm teaching the other class, and both classrooms are packed.
Yeah.
So and we've got
really good.
We've got people that are in those classes that are leaving one profession and joining surveying as their chosen profession, which is insane. I don't want to say insane, but inspiring that we're gaining that much traction.
Yeah.
All right, back to the agenda.
Foundation
not
updates.
Not our agenda. But
foundation updates. That was. I'll kind of go down the list. It might help you out, Ryan. And then we can. But raffle's coming up. Got to put a plug in for the Foundation's raffle at the upcoming convention.
What are we raffling off?
We got a couple good firearms. The
Gonna have
usual
2
suspects.
this year. Yeah.
We'll have some other cool items. I think one is a cooler that's planned, and then maybe we've talked about expanding the list of raffle items to maybe like a golf distance.
Rangefinder or something.
And, just try to.
Or
there's
maybe
always one or two in the crowd that comes and says, "I don't want to win a gun." So we're designing raffle tickets for them as well.
We're thinking maybe gift cards even for like a golf pro shop or something, or golf store where you can buy a driver or something like that for that. Because
hunting trip with Ryan Swain.
You want to donate one?
Yeah, we need the voucher so we can have that ready to go.
We're always up to take donations.
It's a tax write-off, right?
We will take donations. If anyone out there listening does want to offer donations of prizes, we will take them to raffle.
Absolutely. The more items we can raffle.
If you have ideas about raffle items,
absolutely.
please put them forward.
When you think about it, you know our past stuff, but drones, GoPro
iPads,
cameras, iPads, earbuds, gift cards. We'll take the gift cards and raffle them, like we were talking, a golf club or a set of golf clubs is pretty expensive. So, we don't have it in our budget to offer a, full set of clubs, but we'll take gift cards to help ease that pain when you go to the pro shop or whatever.
You know what people like the most?
Cash.
How about a 50-50
raffle?
Yeah,
50-50.
We're trying to get that. We've got several chapters that have golf outings as their fundraisers. So we know we got golfers in the crowd, so that's a no-brainer to try to get something on the slate of items like that.
Or you could, if you didn't purchase the gun ahead of time, you can obviously tell them you could take the gun or the cash equivalent. Whatever
Right.
someone would do. But.
I can't see making somebody decide between those two.
Spoken like a true gun guy.
We're trying to make it a fun and positive
Yes.
experience. That kind of, as far as other things we hit on the foundation, just we kind of recapped. Scholarships went as planned this year, and we gave all the scholarships out that we had available to give out.
Yeah.
So we're still, in that the foundation's kind of put it on their running agenda, but we're still talking with Jen Hott, the professor at Purdue, some way trying to light a spark to find something there, and it's one of those things that's just going to take a long time.
Yeah.
I think it's not going to happen quick. I don't think anybody had the idea that it would happen overnight, but at the same time, we've got to find a way to light that fire enough that it would take off. But
And it's starting to spark a little,
Yeah.
so
Yeah,
we can see
there's
where it goes.
interest out there. With that, we went to Workforce Development
Yeah,
Committee.
before let's skip over that for now, because I want to come back to Rodney on that. So let's skip over that and go to the convention site selection.
Yep, convention 2000. Obviously, the upcoming convention will be in Fort Wayne, 2023. That's been slated for quite some time now, and registration will be opening up within the next week or two.
Yeah.
2 weeks. I think it's by around December
Yeah, pretty soon.
is when it opens up. 2024 convention will be at the Embassy Suites in Noblesville.
New
Now,
location.
Is this the Embassy Suites right there at Oleo Road? And
Yeah, right there at
Right
exit
that-
10.
It's a
that,
newer
right
facility,
by
I
the
believe.
right by the outdoor mall area and stuff right
Uh-huh.
there. Yeah.
all right, that's very, very close
Yeah.
to my house, which is good and bad.
The 2025 convention. And Ryan, do you remember who's hosting that Noblesville convention?
I think it's going to be CIC. It's
yeah.
going to be here with CIC, and then I think we've discussed. We haven't confirmed, but we're going to try to get at least one of the other smaller chapters
to help out.
out.
CIC
Maybe
with it. Yeah.
maybe the Tecumseh or one of those chapters to
One that
jump
may
in.
not be quite as prevalent
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
To try to get some
Get some
participation
activity
out of it.
and-
Get something going. 2025 convention will be in Evansville. I don't know that a venue was picked out.
It's a convention center. I
Yeah.
think so.
Yeah.
I think there's one. They have one picked out. I don't know if it was specifically listed, but it's a convention center. I think in downtown Evansville.
Yeah. That's
It's a newer one, I believe.
right. And Southwest chapter will be hosting that convention. I think they've talked about bringing on one of the other chapters to co-host as well.
So were there any discussion, when we moved the convention from Indianapolis a few years ago, started moving it to different locations, we thought people would be happy about it, but there was a lot of the people from the far northwest and far southwest that were not too pumped about it. I guess to keep them informed that we're going to continue the virtual conference in March, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's not there's no plan to take that out as a part of the convention program at this point. So that will always something that's planned to be offered going forward is the virtual kind of program that
keeping
goes
it in
along
there.
with the convention.
And
so
then
that's
the other thing that we've kind of got in our mind as of right now, the plan is to try to every other year come back here to Indianapolis somewhere in central Indiana.
That's
so
the rotation.
So
Yeah.
the rotation is we'll come back here, especially we want to try to get here right before the renewal years
Correct.
is the goal. And then that allows those people that are on the fringes to kind of have a central location.
So
for
those that are upset are only going to be upset
every other
third
year.
No, every
or
third
every
year.
Yeah, third year, I guess. Yeah.
right.
Every third year. So 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
I attended both this year, and to be honest with you. I enjoyed both. I mean, the obviously the live convention has the camaraderie standpoint, seeing all your friends and maybe having some vibations and having a little fun. But the virtual conference certainly was convenient. The delivery method there is a little different than what we did during COVID. It's a every Friday the month of March, or 3 of the Fridays, I don't recall. But and it usually a half-day seminar, so it was easy to fit in. And I just got audited by Nebraska for my continuing ed, and luckily I had a plethora of credits to use, so that was very handy for me to have options for both. Let's move on to the next bullet point.
Well, I
careers.
would like to.
Okay.
I would, when we're talking about conventions, as Ryan Selby mentioned, we're going to go every other year. We'll be back in Central Indiana, around Indianapolis. So we're obviously looking 3-4 years down the road. We're looking at when we go north and then south, alternating. We're looking at different places. We're not nailed down to the. Most venues don't do contracts out like we used to have with the Marriott East on the east side of Indianapolis. You can't get them to go more than a year or two out. So we don't plan too far ahead. So we're looking at, there's new venues opened up in southeastern Indiana. We're kind of excited to go explore other areas in the south that we can get to. So keep that in mind in the upcoming years.
And if there's suggestions on like in the Northwest, if the chapter in the Northwest has a venue that they know of that's big enough to hold us, like, please bring it to the board, because we'll try to move it around as much as we can is the goal as of right now.
Yep.
All right, we're running thin on time, so
Yeah, we're about.
let's
Let's
our goal is to be 20 minutes. We're already 22.
We're well past that.
All right, so career center information. What's
time. Sorry.
what's going on here?
Sorry, Rodney. It's Career Center. The board voted to adopt a new platform for the Career Center or job board, if you will, for the ISPLS website. It's a company that kind of hosts a job board, so they're more involved and more active. The biggest thing is, in order to post a job opening on the ISPLS website, there will be a fee, I think, but it's something that it's a fee that goes to ISPLS.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does is it becomes a more active platform, where as opposed to filling it out, putting it up there, and just sitting around. This company goes out, they look for potential candidates, they try to, broadcast that and extend it to other outlets to get the word out. So you're getting a little bit of service back for that fee, but it's something that we thought would really advance what that was. And it was unanimous to do something different on that, and I think it'll be a benefit, but we'll see how that shakes out in the future.
And there's a benefit there. Firm members will get a discount. So ISPLS firm members will get a discount
Right.
on the
Similar
on
with
that
the
job
convention
posting.
registrations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, on to nominations committee updates. I am the nominations committee chair. Now, when we changed that, the goal was that the nominations committee would be headed up by the past president, and that has never changed hands for me. So, Eric, are you willing to take over that committee?
We'll have to explore that idea.
That's a no.
Being here 10 months, he's learned what to say and what not to say.
No,
Overcommitment.
I had
Especially not on record.
So we have an
Not while it's being taped.
approved slate of candidates, but additional candidates can be added. So if anyone's interested in running for the board of directors, you've got a few weeks before we.
I was going to say the ballot will go out very soon.
Yeah.
But we've got 7 candidates on the
and we're
ballot.
filling how many? How many positions are we filling?
It'll be 4. It'll be for because
you're leaving a void when you
yeah,
go to president.
it'll be a 2-year. There will be a 2-year term left of my term.
So traditionally, that is, the 3 candidates will be the top vote getters, and then the person that fills that spot would be the next person in line as far as vote tally goes.
Right.
Let's read off that list of candidates. It's a pretty impressive group there.
We got Dee Baxter, Jessica Hess, Jacob Hoffman, Rodney Kelly, Ryan Swingley, Ronald Worry, Don Williams.
Very nice. I think any of those would make great board members, and look forward to seeing what changes may come.
Watch for the email announcement of the ballot to be cast, and I think you'll get maybe one reminder. But when you see that come through, take the time, sit down, cast your vote, and
should come out
be a part of it.
Towards the end of November.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting to discuss some of the election aspects of our society. We've got somewhere around 500 members, and we only have about 130 people turn out for.
It's about 25 to 30% turnout on a good election cycle. So,
I mean, not terrible, but not great. I think, not to get too controversial at this meeting, but there's always been the idea that CIC runs everything and we always get elected. But from a pure voting power standpoint, what's CIC have member-wise? About 160? So if 10% of CIC turns out, that's only 16 votes. So some of the other chapters are what? Like, Eric, what's your chapter? How many members are
28.
there? So 28. If every one of your members turned out to vote,
Absolutely.
which they probably don't, could easily outvote Central Indiana chapter if only a small percentage of our votes are turning out.
And it's it's by email. You don't have to lick a stamp. You don't have to fill out a paper. You're just sitting at your computer. Even if you don't know these candidates personally, read their bios. Make an informed decision off of that, but participate.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, this is the main reason I wanted to skip workforce development was to discuss strategic planning. I've been involved with the board several years on and off. I've been through probably 3 strategic planning sessions with ISPLS. The first previous 2 planning sessions, I think we set a bunch of goals and pushed them to the side and kept going as normal.
Well, that's not fair to say.
Now, the difference between our last strategic planning session was we identified workforce development as our top goal, and I think we have, in the last 2 years, have done everything in our power to focus that effort in that direction.
Right, and I think some of the other things that came in, and every board of directors meeting, we'd pull that chart up that has the kind of the goals and how they shook out in the weight of measures, so to speak. And workforce development obviously is going to stay at the forefront for quite some time. So it's nothing it's not that we don't have those goals at the ready, but it's about where those efforts go and to what extent. So I think having it again in February, we can take a look at some of the things in the past, and we can maybe shift some things around that need to be brought up and given a little bit more slice of the time.
But what I'm getting at is that we set that goal, and we have been laser focused for the last couple of years on that, and I think it shows. Mm-hmm. You go back to those numbers. Vincennes University had 6 students a few years ago. Now they've got 71. I think that efforts are really starting to pay off.
Yeah.
So with that, let's lead into workforce development. Rodney Kelly, you are the chair. Tell us a little bit about what you guys are doing. What's going on?
Well, we're doing a little bit of everything, honestly. It seems like there hasn't been much that we've turned down this year because we haven't. I think there's probably 3 or 4 events that we couldn't attend because we couldn't fill spots. So that there is a success from the volunteer standpoint. I think in the past years that I've volunteered, and I'm going back to probably pre-COVID, being asked to attend an event or to do something to promote the profession in some way. I think what it led to was, and this is not a slight against anybody who was ever involved before this, but there really wasn't a coordinated effort. There wasn't a.
Well, it was grassroots back in those days.
It still is kind of, and that's not a bad thing right now. Looking at the overall plan, it was. I talked about this, I guess, in January at our first meeting at the convention, and we discussed the idea of what this would look like. And 2 days before is when Norm said, "I really want to officially form this committee." And so from then, it started with looking backwards. What information do we have? What events have we attended? Who have been our allies within the profession? What groups? What chapters? What leadership had done for 20, 30 years in the past? And a lot of stuff's not really readily available. So it's more of a grassroots to then coordinate with those individuals and then start making plans to do whatever you can whenever you can. And I looked at it and I thought to the point where maybe we need to take a step back and look at this long term, because I'm not sure I'm really prepared to start the way I think we should start. And so as we started to look forward in February and March, the first thing we needed to do is identify all those individuals and those groups, and start having monthly meetings and finding out who knows who and what they know and what they can bring to the table, and just a fact-finding mission. From there, it started to gain some more momentum. And in the last year, you're right, Ryan, you absolutely hit it on the head. Right before COVID, we were starting to take off, and then everything stopped. And by stopped, everything stopped. No more school visits, no more meetings. Virtual meetings weren't even happening at this time. So
It's more like a screeching halt.
yeah, and it is a huge disappointment. It's a moral blow when you have people on board. But as we started reaching out again and going down a new path, it was clear we needed aligned partnerships. We need to find people who are fighting the same fight, people who can commit some time, but also help us in our endeavors and whatnot. So we started looking for those partnerships and volunteers. I mean, we had a group of almost 30 at our first meeting, and that was awesome. But we knew right out the gate, something is better than nothing. We just got to start it up, keep going, and keep pushing forward and doing what we can. So that's what we've done so far this year. I kind of had like more of a 3-year idea of the first year was mostly going to be about, like what I said, fact-finding and getting some things identified and seeing what works and what doesn't work, and then start focusing on year 2 on the things that have worked, that have really pushed people into the profession and really exposed our profession. Because one of the key driving factors right before the convention was the School Counselors Association meeting that we went to in November. And this has been documented, obviously, in the Hoosier Surveyor, and I've said it on multiple occasions. But identifying that school counselors in general don't know what surveyors do is a huge problem. And so we got to correct that. We got to, those are our allies. Those are our boots on the ground. So
Train the trainer, so to speak.
Train the trainer. So reaching out to them, we're doing that November 18th and 19th again this year. We have volunteers for that. We've had volunteers for every event that we've gone to, and we're learning, as we go. Sort of like this podcast, right? We're just learning as we go and find out what works and what doesn't work. And what works is definitely having the volunteers available, but also finding the volunteers in the communities that they want to serve, in their own backyard. So we've started identifying those individuals as well. We have an event today in Martinsville. We have one next week in Columbus, in two of our members' backyards, literally. So having those partnerships and then making the best of those, growing those partnerships in your local communities of how you can promote the profession and also promote your business. It's awesome to see on social media, because it's everywhere now, what people can do and have been doing and are willing to do if you ask them.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the fruits of labor are starting to pay off. I don't think we'll see major impact for 10 years.
At least, yeah.
10 years. I mean, it's a sprint, or it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I think workforce development has a twofold mission, right? Number one mission is bring new people, new life into this profession. And then the second mission, in my opinion, is develop our existing technicians, people that are seeking licensure, mentoring. Let's be honest. Mentoring, because of workload, mentoring is kind of taking a back seat today. So, do you have any ideas on what the mission might be for workforce development as far as developing our current members in our profession?
I think, in my opinion, and this is very, very young in this endeavor for me, what I felt from the very beginning was the outreach has never been there. And I say that because I asked everybody in this room. I met with individuals who have been past presidents, board members, and whatnot, and I asked them how they got into surveying. And we've traded war stories, and it's interesting that there are so many different ways, but none of them are a teacher told me to. A teacher directed me, like this would be good. Mm-hmm. And I think, just that in and itself, brings something to the table that hey, we need to change the culture of some things. And that's why the partnerships are important. The partnerships with BYF, Build Your Future, or Indiana Constructors, or any of these other aligned professions that we serve in some way as a profession through associations, memberships, work, projects, and whatnot. They need us. Engineers need us. Architects need us. Other surveying companies need us. We're someone who there's a huge market and a value there. Going back to the very beginning of how I thought, because I only know my story personally and the stories that I've been asking about, but knowing that we can start with just the outreach, start heavy there, plant all those seeds. Some of them will grow, not at the amount that we want, but they will grow. But also then, to your point, Ryan, your question, what's that other phase? I think the outreach has to go on 100% moving forward.
Right.
I think the development of our workforce is something that has to be layered on top of that, and it's going to need to come with partnerships with ISPLS, with other organizations who test, with commitments of firms, with the firm memberships. Everybody's complaining about there's no one to hire, but what are we doing as professionals individually or with our firms that are helping that endeavor along the way? I know what some people are doing, but what's everybody doing? Are people?
What do you mean by that? When they come in, what opportunities we're providing for them to better their education, or
I think it's so many levels. This is really, really a deep conversation that obviously we'll go way past the time limit on this.
We can break the mold.
There's another tier. I think the kind of the gap that's missing. Obviously you've got continuing education. That's for professionals. That's for professional surveyors. There's got to be or we're exploring, what that level means or what that level is for somebody that's in between that, from getting into the profession to maybe becoming licensed. What does that look like in between those years?
Well, and I think like the evidence that we're seeing out of Vincennes that we were talking about earlier, like she's got 50 students that are not traditional students. That are not traditional students. So they are in that is a tier of our workforce development, is having the opportunities like that to be able to do that.
You know, is it the CST program? Is that something that can be? I mean, obviously, you know, CST is available for ISPLS associate members.
Well, it's available to anyone.
Any member.
Yeah.
You don't even need to be an NSPS member, I don't believe, to be a CST.
Right, and ISPLS is going to foot the bill. If you have an associate member in your firm, or if you have somebody that you would like to see take the CST exam or get on a path, that's ISPLS has that resource available.
Yeah, ISPLS is fitting the bill for the training program. So, yeah, for those that don't know, I serve on the CST board for NSPS. We meet quarterly. I'm pretty new to the game. But it's a great program. We're starting to modernize some of the questions. I think the test is challenging. I think it really will give owners and licensed people a true snapshot of where their people are and what they're capable of. And I think it's a great tool for advancement and identifying who the future leaders of your organization and our society are. So, I mean, I would like to see greater implementation. Maybe that's somewhat of a selfish goal, but it's always been a part of Indiana surveying, and the fact that Vincennes University students, since its inception of the CST, have always taken the CST Level 1 and Level 2 exam. I don't think they're doing that today. Probably has something to do with time and cost. One of the things we did at our last board meeting was greatly reduce the cost to take the exam for organizations such as Vincennes University. And there's even some high schools in Texas that are using the CST program. And kids are taking Level 1 CST as they come out of high school. So
Wow, that's
pretty
awesome.
neat program. And
Yeah.
we do have a high school or two here in Indiana that actually have a surveying program or curriculum in their schools. So I think there's ways to expand the CST program within the state. Mentoring, I think, is a challenging discussion.
But I think it's a very important discussion when you talk about workforce development, because some of our goals are, as Eric mentioned, you know, the person that moves up into the position that you have as you move up in your office or your business or whatnot. But identifying that is an important item that's a requirement for your license. Mm-hmm. You know, being under that direct supervision requires mentorship,
right?
And it's part of our profession and our careers. So you know, you have to ask the question to yourself as a surveyor: who are you mentoring?
Well, what I mean by mentor, like let's say if we implemented an ISPLS mentorship program, which is something we've discussed over the years, would be a mentee could approach ISPLS and say, "Hey, I want a mentor," and this mentor could be someone outside of the company they work for, right? And I think we've always looked at it from a perspective of teach them how to be a leader and things like that. But when it comes to practice stuff, I think it becomes very challenging, because now you may be inadvertently influencing decisions that may impact the company they work for from a cost standpoint. It just becomes very tricky. So, I mean, it's just something to
Obviously,
take into
if
consideration.
it happens within is the best case scenario.
Yeah,
It's-
absolutely.
I mean, you know, I think the leaning toward more of a resource, ISPLS would provide a resource for those in that demographic. As far as, you know, I'm not licensed, but I've got some education, but I want to know more. I want to do, you know, and have that available.
Right. All right, boys. Well, we've doubled our time here than what we normally want to take, and then some, which is fine. I mean, this is all.
Maybe you'll
great
double your
topics.
likes.
How many people?
There's no dislike button, is there?
There's 20 people listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
but
I haven't
hey.
seen the demographics on the
I don't
others,
think we've
but-
done it enough to know.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, and that's something that we're going to look at is we need to get this uploaded to more of a traditional podcast platform, and we're going to work on that. So hopefully we can get these up on those and kind of get it out there where it's a little easier to listen to than on a YouTube channel.
Right.
So,
We need the intro song too. So.
yeah, we'll work on that. Anybody out there? So
The magic button seemed pretty decent.
the preloaded one on the new recorder, yeah.
There's probably thousands of podcasts across the United States that have the same intro.
Start with the
music.
same one now.
I'm sure we can get Joe Hess to play us a tune or
That's
two. if
just
there's an
a
intro.
just a
Shout
little
out to
jingle. Just a little jingle. We don't need a ballad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's no telling where this can take us. I mean, right now we've chosen to just keep it as an extension of the Hoosier Surveyor, be more informative. But we can obviously go down the path of interviewing, one-on-one with get to know a surveyor, and I think that would be fun.
Topics. You could
War-
introduce topics that
You could do a war stories episode.
Oh, yeah,
or
absolutely.
10 right off the bat. What's the worst job you've ever been on?
Well, and that's something. I mean, if the membership has suggestions, send them our way. I mean, I would like to see. I would like to see maybe a more in depth with Jessica down at Vincennes, and maybe one with Carol over at Cincinnati State, and kind of expose the membership to what they're doing. And
I'm sure Gary would be more than
the
happy
only
to come on.
the way that this is gonna be better moving forward is to know what we're doing and how it's doing.
Yeah.
So if we don't hear anything, we don't know anything.
yeah, so let us know, and we'll try to make it better.
To make it better, does anyone got a war story they want to leave us with?
I think we're way past time.
We're-
already.
Who
we're
cares?
at the top.
The listenership can stop listening.
We'll have
anytime
to
they
break
want.
this. This is. I think we've already got three podcast sessions worth of material. So
All right, I guess that means our time has come to a close.
we won't talk to you again as far as board updates until after the convention. So we'll see you at convention, and
Well, maybe that's our next podcast. It would be a preview of the convention. Maybe
a
we'll
good
bring
idea.
Brian Lewis in, and we look at soup to nuts, what the convention's going to be, what we're having for lunch, the important, hard-hitting
Very
topics.
important.
Is gravy included?
Yeah.
will there be coffee break?
Will there be a potato bar again, or what are we looking at here? So, all right. Well, with that, I wanted to thank Rodney, Ryan, and Eric for being here today. Again, like we said, if you have any topics that you want to discuss, feel free to get a hold of us. And with that, we will bid you adieu. Thank you very much. And this is the Hoosier Surveyor podcast signing out.